Good evening, and welcome to tonight's segment of Dotson's Hot Topic. Tonight we will be discussing capital punishment, and as always, I will be giving you my opinion first. Capital punishment is a widely controversial subject today, but is it right for the government to take someone else's life for their actions? In my opinion, I believe in capital punishment. It depends on the extent of the crime, though. Is it fair for the person who committed the crime to get to sit in prison all day, eat free food, have free health care from the taxes that we pay? In addition to that, giving them a roof over their head as a punishment won't change them into a better person, but only get them in the mindset that for whatever crime they committed, their punishment is to just sit in jail, eat for free, free showers, free education, free trades, um, free counseling, free medication, just free. In my opinion, someone who committed a heinous crime such as murder, rape, or torture that has destroyed an individual's family life and letting them live for that is something I strongly oppose. Although some of us say that killing someone who killed someone else is immoral, think about it this way. If the society and the government spare this individual and put him in jail, that will only cost us our money to pay for his or her food and special accommodations, but risk the fact that one day this person may be released from prison and be in society as one of us and may have the capabilities of doing the same actions again, or even break out of jail to seek his or her revenge on society once more. Is it worth the risk? The fact that the murderer, rapist, or a psychopath may walk among us again instead of just subduing a danger to our society? In my opinion, risking our children, family, and friends just to keep another dangerous individual alive in our society is not worth neither the time, or the money. We will be discussing several Facebook posts from some of our listeners, as well as the financial cost of the death penalty in a couple of states throughout the U.S. We will cover the innocence issues and the reason why a percentage of people are against the death penalty. So let's get a few comments from our viewers first. Well, Aaron from Minnesota, he just simply said no. He is not for the death penalty at all. He does not support the death penalty at all. His simple statement was just no. Um, David McMillan is another one with another short answer. He says nope. Let them rot in prison. Randy Macklin states, I'm confused on the issue. I believe that there are many people the world would be better off without. I'm just not sure if I'm comfortable giving people the right to decide for others because I wouldn't like anyone else to make the decision on my life. So that's just basically how he feels. He's just kind of confused, on whether or not, because if he was in the situation, he doesn't know if he would want someone sentencing him to death. Center number one fan states yes, eye for an eye. We have an unknown comment from Arizona stating, I support the death penalty. I don't support waiting years for the person to be executed. I think it should happen within a week as long as there is sufficient evidence. Paddling states that as long as there are people who rape and kill children, we need the death penalty. It only costs more because lawyers overcharge on the appeal proceedings. Dr. Gordon Freeman, we don't know if he's a doctor for real, probably not, but that's his Facebook name, and he states it only costs about 95 cents if you put a bullet in the head. Any pedophiles, rapists, child molesters, and murderers should be put down like rabbits. This is just my opinion, though. None of this enjoying easy life on death row for 12 years, then getting a massively expensive lethal injection with painkillers and 6 different chemicals to softly shut the body down. If you rape and kill and molest children, you go back after your trial and experience your last moments in front of a firing squad. That's what he believed. One commenter, Worst Car, states that he doesn't believe in the death penalty because he thinks it should be up to God to decide on when it's time for someone to die and not us. So those were just a few comments from our supporters on Facebook. Excuse me, I have a cold that's kicking my butt. We're going to discuss the financial costs right quick in a couple of states around the United States. In Kansas, it's just it costs a lot of money to hold an individual on death row, and a lot of people believe that we shouldn't waste our money on death row offenders, and we should use that money to support things like education and tools that law enforcement might need to help crack down on the crime rate in our area. In Kansas, the defense costs for death penalty trials averaged $395,000 per case, compared to $98,000 per case when the death penalty was not sought. In California, it is believed that it has totaled over $4 billion since 1978. Indiana, the average cost of a capital case resulting in a death sentence costs about $449,000, while average cost of a case in which a life sentence without parole was sought and achieved was only about $42,658. And in Texas, each death penalty case in Texas costs taxpayers about $2.3 million. That is about 3 times the cost of imprisoning someone in a single cell at the highest security level for 40 years. So those are just some numbers from different states around the U.S. and just give you something to think about, the amount of money that it costs us to hold these type of individuals that are on death row. Another issue that a lot of people are just debating on is whether or not the individuals are innocent. Can we take a chance or sentence someone to death if we can't be 100% sure that they are guilty? Since 1973, 142 people who were sentenced to death in 26 states have been freed after their conviction were reversed. On average, it took about 9.5 years between the defendant's sentencing and his or her exoneration. In the vast majority of these states, the defendants were acquitted of all charges at a retrial, or the prosecution decided to drop all the charges. The problem of innocence has not been restricted to the earlier years of the death penalty. Most of the 142 people who have been freed were exonerated since 1995, and there were 3 people exonerated in 2012. The reversals of these 142 cases do not prove that the system works. Many of these cases indicate just the opposite. The 18 cases where people were freed as the result of post-conviction DNA testing are a stark reminder of the fallibility of our justice system. DNA testing evolved as a tool of science. If this type technology had emerged 10 years later, many of those 18 people may have been executed by now. It is important to note that the typical case that ended with a DNA exoneration began with an unanimous jury conviction and an unanimous vote for a death sentence, both of which were affirmed at numerous levels of appeal. So, even with individuals possibly being innocent, that still doesn't change the mind of the family members that lost their loved one to someone that murdered their loved one to murder. Just these certain facts, the amount of money it costs, and the fact that they're there is a percentage of innocence. It's just not enough to some people. And there are several reasons why um wrongful convictions there are several reasons for wrong convictions, I'm sorry. And that is inadequate legal representation, or it just doesn't put in the amount of time or the service that is needed. Police misconduct, lies, stealing evidence, racial prejudice. This has been going on forever and ever, and probably will continue throughout our system. Mistaken eyewitness testimony, payoffs. The mind doesn't record as we think it does, so it is not as easy as we all think it is to identify someone that has committed a crime. It might be a little bit harder than we think. And misinterpretation of mitigating evidence. We're going to get a few reasons why people are against the death penalty. Just they're going to give the percentage as well. Of this year, 2014. 40% think that it's wrong to take a life. 17% think that persons may be wrongly convicted. 17% think that it should be left to God. 9% think that they need to pay or suffer longer and think about the crime in jail. 9% says it depends on the circumstances. 5% says that it's unfair application of the death penalty by being lethally injected. 4% believe that that it does not deter people from committing murder. It just doesn't. Murders are still convicted. People have been sentenced to death since the beginning of time, and people are still taking other people's lives. 2% says that there's a possibility of rehabilitation, that we could probably cure him or her, and we should be able to give him or her that chance to be rehabilitated. That's only 2%. And another 2% says that it costs more to keep prisoners on death row. We covered several costs around the states of that issue. And there were only 3% that said they had no opinion at all. So with all of that we covered, whether you believe in the death penalty or not, it's not my decision to get you to change your mind, but it's just simply trying to get some of the facts, because I'm not going to be able to cover all of the facts in my 15 minutes, but we discussed the cause, the possibility of being innocent, other ways to punish the offender, as well as we got a few comments from several of our Facebook friends. So I'm going to get ready to conclude. I hope that some of the information that I shared with you was helpful. And as again, I'm not trying to get you to change your mind, because what I believe in is what I believe in, and what you believe in is totally up to you, and it should not be up to another person to get you to change your mind. It should be facts. You should be presented with facts. So in concluding, we're going to say the death penalty in the United States has become unwieldy, and in most states, executions are rare. The delay between sentencing and executions have lengthened, and the cost of the death penalty cases have grown considerably. Yet, for all this additional effort, death penalty cases are still prone to error, and the risk of executing an innocent person remains. The public and the families of victims have right to be frustrated with this system, but there is no simple way to reduce delays and costs while ensuring that innocent lives are protected and that the system works fairly. The dilemmas is one of the principal reasons for that the use of the death penalty has declined so drastically in recent years. Thank you, and you all have a great, great night.